Hello Dikabooters, I'm Hels from Hels Nicholas Dikaboot, and today we are in Kos in Greece on top of Mount Dikeos. We're going to be climbing from Zia, from the village, up through the trees, nice and shaded on the way up, which is great because it is warm, up to this point on the summit. Let's go.
Our walk starts in the mountain village of Zia on the northern slopes of Mount Dikeos. Early in the morning, the main car park and winding streets were quiet, with just a few cafes opening and the air still cool in the shade. Known for its traditional Greek tavernas, craft shops and wide views across Kos, Zia is a popular place later in the day and especially for sunset, but this hour it felt calm and almost empty. We set off with an early morning sense of anticipation, heading through the narrow streets and up the steps to the trail, leaving the stillness of the village behind as the climb began.
From the village of Zia, we made our way up to the fire roads that circle the base of Mount Dikeos. The tracks here are firm and open, making this section a comfortable start before the climb begins in earnest. They wound past small olive groves and family farms, with gentle slopes and plenty of shade beneath the trees, a welcome relief on a warm day. Yet these tracks seemed to go on forever, stretching endlessly ahead as the mountain loomed above us. From time to time we caught glimpses of the landscape opening out below and above. Light clouds clung to the rocky peaks, giving them an ethereal halo we hoped would lift before we reached the summit.
Leaving the fire roads behind, the rocky trail rose sharply into the forest, winding between the pines and junipers whose resin-scented shade gave us respite from the growing heat. The path was rough and stony here, needing good trainers of walking shoes and care on loose rocks. We paused often, puffing from the climb but grateful for the excuse to take in the dazzling views that appeared through the trees. Silvery olive groves, the coastline curling into the haze and the Aegean glinting beyond. Higher up, the path steepened again, culminating in a short scramble where we needed hands for balance before finally emerging onto the open hillside.
Emerging from the tree line, we stepped onto the exposed ridge heading towards the summit of Mount Dikeos, where the path narrowed and clung to the hillside as it wound across the undulating top. Behind us lay the shaded forest, and ahead the land pulled away into the sunlight. The air was cooler here, with the breeze carrying a sense of height and freedom. All around, the island stretched out in a vast panorama, the sunlit slopes of Kos, the deep blue of the sea, and the distant islands floating on the horizon. With each step, we felt at one with the elements, exhilarated by the openness and reward of the views after the effort of the climb.
Reaching the summit of Mount Dikeos, known as Psilo Vouno, you enter a magnificent sunlit space, and every step is worth it for this. At 846 metres, it's the highest point on Kos, where limestone, marble and volcanic rock converge to form this dramatic, awe-inspiring crest. Walking past the summit cross, Greek flags and small chapel dedicated to Christ perched to guard the island's peak. You're rewarded with sweeping panorama of the entire island, the shimmering Aegean Sea and distant islands. All around, the land falls away in ridges and valleys, olive groves and scrub giving way to coastline and sea. This was the perfect place to pause and refresh, letting the breeze wash over us, feeling the climb melt away and enjoying the expanse of the views all around.
look, a little chapel. That's cute. Wonder if you can go inside. You can. When you can finally tear yourself away, the descent follows the same route back, retracing your steps from the summit across the ridge and down through the forest. The walk surprised us with how quiet it was. We passed few other walkers, and even at the summit there were only a couple of people. Most of the time we had the mountain to ourselves. The views that had been behind us on the way up now stretched ahead, shifting and changing round every corner. As we made our way down the rocky path, fire roads and steps, the heat began to build, so it's worth carrying plenty of water. Back in Zia, the once sleepy streets were now bustling with visitors, the shops and tavernas open, and the air filled with chatter drifting through the village, a lively contrast to the calm of the mountain above.